One of my favorite areas or topics to work on with students is interview practice and preparation. Now, this might sound a bit cheesy or stereotypical. I really do enjoy seeing people improve and achieve their goals and targets. That they got the job, they received their promotion, they got into the university that they were interviewing for. It really makes me so proud of them and so proud of the journey that we went through to get them ready for this event in their life. So in today's video, I'm going to go through the most commonly asked interview questions and give you some tips on how to answer them or how not to answer them. Now, I have done a couple of videos like this previously, specifically focusing on one question or a type of question. However, I think my videos have improved not only in quality, but the way I present my videos and the information I have has improved. So I wanted to redo this as a general video for anyone that is about to have an interview of any type. It doesn't matter if you're senior level management, medium level management, an employee applying for a university. These are the most commonly asked questions in any form of interview. Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm a business English teacher. I help my students with their English for the workplace and, of course, as you can see, interview preparation. Definitely subscribe if you are trying to level up your English. And if you don't have an interview lined up, save this video for when you do. You never know what could happen in the future. Now, the first question you will be asked, and often the most difficult to answer, is going to be some form of tell us about yourself, tell us about your experience. What do you want us to know about you? Tell us something we cannot find on your CV. Now, it's important to note for anyone watching that in America, they often use the word resume. So previous experience is your resume. But in British English and many places in Europe, we use the Latin word, which is curriculum vitae, or CV for short. So throughout the rest of this video, if you hear me saying CV, because I will say it a lot, I mean resume, I mean your work experience, that piece of paper that you send to job applications that explains about your experience. That is a CV. Now, as I said, this question can be asked in various different ways, but realistically, you answer the same regardless of how they ask you. So the first thing you want to do is make sure your answer is more human. Instead of just listing everything that you have done, give some insight into you as a person, not just as a worker bee. They have all your experience on your CV. They have the dates you worked in places. They have your roles. So listing all of that information is nothing new for them. However, I will give you my example so you can see what I mean by making it more human. Although my background is in marketing, I really enjoy working on causes that mean something, working for organizations that care about the environment, care about the people in the world around them, have a positive effect on the planet or society. Because of this, I always make sure I apply for positions that have strong values and ethics that also fit with my values and ethics. Then I would go into listing my experience. So then I would say something like, as you can see from my previous role as marketing manager, and whatever else you want to say. But notice in the first introduction of myself, I talk about my likes, my dislikes, why I'm passionate, why I seek out the jobs that I seek out. I'm making it more human. I'm making it more about me. Maybe you are really passionate about a particular sport. Maybe you love talking to people. Perhaps you speak 6 different languages and so only apply to jobs where you have the opportunity to use those 6 different languages. Start with that. Start with something that makes you human. Why are you on this career path? What excites you? What motivates you? And then link it to your past experience. Because of this, Now, when talking about your past experience, I have seen many students memorize their CV. And that's fantastic that you can talk about your roles, the dates you did those roles. But again, the people in front of you, the interviewers, have that information and have hopefully read your CV before interviewing you. So there is no need to list off all of that information in detail, but pick out some major points from your previous experience. So as you will see from my CV, I have worked for Google for 10 years. Or as you will see from my CV, all of my sales roles have been in IT and tech. There is no need to list my first job was, my second job was. It's a waste of your time and you're going to lose the interviewer's attention. If you're not sure which positions to talk about maybe the last 2 years or the last position, however long that was, the last position you held. What did you do there? Why did you enjoy it? Why are you leaving? I'm going to give you a final example to kind of make this clearer for you. So if I was to say to you, when I was 3, I started playing football. When I was 10, I started playing volleyball. At 11, I decided I didn't like volleyball, so I changed and started playing badminton. However, if I was to say, I have been interested in sports all of my life and started from a very young age. I have played a number of different sports, and within each one I am successful and work well within a team as well as individually. I'm telling you something about myself. I love sports, but you're interested. I'm selling myself, and that is what you want to do in an interview, is sell yourself. You are not a robot. You are a person with unique skills and unique interests, and that's what makes you you. Now, technically, strengths and weaknesses are 2 different questions. However, I have grouped them together because they are always asked together. You will never be asked about one without the other. So let's start with strengths. The most important thing about answering this question is never use phrases such as I think, or I guess, or probably, or maybe. Be sure that in your answer, you are confident. Look at the difference in these 2 answers. I think probably my biggest strength is talking to people. I guess I make them feel comfortable. Now compare it to this answer. My biggest strength is the ability to talk to people and make them feel comfortable in any situation. Now, who are you going to hire? The first Catherine or the second Catherine? Confidence is key. No guessing your strengths, no thinking about your strengths. You know your strength and you are going to tell them your strength. So I'm going to put on the screen now a few ways you can start answering this. I have found that I have noticed in my previous roles that my prior colleagues have told me that my previous sales figures show that I get constant feedback that I am good at this. Your strengths are a fantastic opportunity to sell yourself, so don't feel like you only need to give one. Even if they ask for one, even if they say, what is your main strength? Feel free to give more than one, give 2, give 3, and try and have examples to back up your claims. So let's use my previous example about me being able to talk to people and make them feel comfortable. I would follow this up with, this is shown through all of my fantastic student reviews and my successful background in marketing. Every position I have worked in has involved communication in some way. So notice I don't just claim I can do this. I also relate my previous experience to why I think I can do this. Now, weakness is the opposite. When asked about your weakness, instead of giving them more than one weakness, even if they ask for multiple, what are your weaknesses? Only give one. Don't give the interviewer an opportunity to think you are a weak candidate. Think of one weakness you can give and give that answer for every interview. There is one weakness that I think many non-native speakers can give, but I'm going to get into that in a minute. So if you're not sure what your weakness is, definitely get ready to write this one down. But first of all, a couple of things to remember when giving your weakness. First of all, turn it into a positive. And second of all, make sure they know it's something you are working on. So whatever you decide your weakness is, try adding a phrase to the end of it, such as, this is something I am actively working on and trying to improve. Or, I am currently taking feedback from my manager about this area, and we are working together to try and improve my skills in this area. So I'm going to give you an example now. So my weakness would be that when I get negative feedback, I find it very difficult to not take it personally. But when I say this in an interview, I would say something along the lines of, I find it difficult to separate constructive feedback from negative feedback, meaning sometimes I take the feedback too personally. However, this is something I am aware of and am working on, and I will always evaluate the feedback and try and use it to improve my work or my future projects. So I turned it into a positive. It's something I'm trying to improve. Now, something I advise all of my students to say in an interview, but of course it comes down to personal preference. You don't have to say this if you don't want to or it doesn't feel comfortable. If you are applying for a job that is not in your native language, using that language as your weakness, even if it's not, is a great way to convince the interviewer that your language won't be a problem. What do I mean by this? Well, let's say, for example, you say, I know English is not my strongest point, but I am taking lessons and taking courses and trying to improve every day. Or, I speak English very well casually, but I've not had many jobs in English, so I'm currently working on my business English skills in order to improve them. Now, what this does is not only tells the employer that you are willing to improve, willing to learn, you are actively trying to increase your skills. This also squashes or diminishes or gets rid of any doubts they may have. So let's imagine you are interviewing for a position and every one of the candidates is a native English speaker and you are the only non-native English speaker. The interviewer, before even meeting you, is naturally going to think, I wonder if their English is good enough. If you raise that to the interviewer, it looks very confident, it looks very self-assured, very aware, and any doubts that that interviewer has in their mind, you are raising them before they can. So at the end of the interview, they're not going to say, we're worried that your English isn't good enough, because you've already told them that. You've already said, I know potentially my English isn't good enough, but if you trust me and you give me time, I am actively trying to improve this. Why do you want this position, or why do you want to work for this company, or what attracted you about this role? This can be asked in many different ways. Why do you want this job? This question is not only used to test your ambition and your fit within the company, but it's also used to test your research skills. So what do you know about the company? What do you understand about the role? If your answer is very vague, not very specific, the company gets the impression you're applying to many different roles and actually you're not that interested in this role. That's fine. We all need money, but you don't want the interviewer to feel that. You want the interviewer to feel that this is your dream job. This is the one you want. So I would research the company first. Find out some interesting information. Maybe they're opening a new location. Maybe their head office is in Tokyo. Maybe they operate across 50 different countries. Find something interesting that you can bring up in this section. So again, I'm going to use myself as an example. I used to work for a running brand. They created products for people that do marathons and run on a weekly basis, daily basis. I want this position because I love sports and exercise. I love to keep fit. As well as that, this position fits with my previous experience. And I also noticed on your company website, you have stores in over 30 different locations and your head office is located in Amsterdam. So I believe if I can be successful, if I can do well within this company, I'd get the opportunity to maybe travel or work in different countries, different locations. Not only am I talking positively about the brand, but I'm showing I'm ambitious. I'm showing that I've researched the brand. I know something about it. This looks really good to the interviewer, especially if the next candidate just says, it fits with my experience and it's close to my house. You've researched the brand. You know a little more than everybody else in that room. You can also, of course, answer how it differs from your current position. Maybe there's a training program that you're really excited about. You can bring up any of this to answer this question, but do your research. Find something interesting that you can impress the interviewer with. I have a video on competency-based questions on my channel, and that is exactly what this kind of question is. How do you overcome a challenge? When was the last time you faced a problem and what did you do? What would you do if you were expected to meet deadlines and you ran out of time? How do you prioritize on a Monday morning? All of these questions are competency-based questions, and what they are doing is testing your ability to handle a situation. So in order to answer these kinds of questions, what you're expected to do is give an example of a time you faced this kind of challenge or this kind of problem, what you did to tackle that problem, how you found a solution, and potentially what you did in the future to make sure that didn't happen again. So the example itself does not matter. It's how you solved it, what you did to solve it that they are interested in. They want to know how you would solve a problem in their team, in their company, in their office. So before your interview, try and think of a few different examples. You can Google competency-based questions or go and watch my competency question video to give you some examples. If you have no examples at all, if this is your first job, or you've never had a difficult situation, or you just can't think of an example, you can make one up, but try and make sure that your solution or the way you fix the problem is really realistic. So let's say, for example, I've never had an argument at work, but I've had an argument with my best friend outside of work. I would relay that information, how I handled it, what we did, but I would talk about that best friend as though they were a colleague. So use it as though it's in the work environment. Of course, you don't just want to lie in the interview. So try and think of an example that is realistic. Don't make up some big fancy lie, because that is not going to look good. But you could say something along the lines of, when I've encountered a conflict at work before, this is what I did. Now, this question can be asked again in various different ways. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? What kind of progression do you see? How do you want the business to help you progress? This question used to be so easy for me because I was ambitious and confident and wanted to be the marketing director, the visual manager for Europe. But due to the global pandemic, a lot of things changed for me, and I decided I didn't want to follow that career path anymore. It's very difficult to answer this question now with so many changes in the world and the future not being as guaranteed as we once thought it was. The world can change so quickly, so you don't necessarily have to give a specific answer for this. Of course, if you have a specific answer, I want to be CEO, or I want to be head of sales, or I want to manage a team of 30 people, say that, that's fine. But if you do not have a goal for 5 or 10 years, you can give a general answer that shows the main principles that you need to get across here. And those are, you are willing to grow, willing to learn, you want to progress, and you have ambition. I enjoy learning and gaining new skills. So over the next 5 or 10 years, I hope to gain as much knowledge and information as possible so that I can keep growing, keep developing. And I hope to do so within this position, within this company, if I am successful. So notice, I don't actually have a plan. It's very vague. But you're saying, if you give me the opportunity to work in your company, I want to grow, I want to learn, I want to progress. I'm not just going to sit at my desk for the next 5 years and do the bare minimum. Again, if you do have a specific goal, you can answer that, but be sure to mention how you're going to get there. You're going to learn, you're going to improve. You're going to use the knowledge of the people around you in order to get to that final point. Of course, there are many more interview questions that could be asked, and sometimes the interview questions are very specific to the role that you have applied for. But during my experience, not only as an interviewee, but also as an interviewer, these are the most common ones. And these are the ones you want to have an answer prepared for. I would almost be willing to say I can guarantee you will be asked these questions in any form of interview. Let me know in the comments if you are preparing for an interview and how you feel about that interview. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Do you need a little bit more preparation time? Don't forget to like this video if it was helpful. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.